Well, that sucked and was kind of what I was expecting. The Packers' season is over. They lose to the Eagles 22-10 in a game that was never close, despite it being only a 1 or 2 score game for a lot of it. The Packers were never in this game. They didn't deserve to win. They played like shit. Once again, they came out sloppy. Opening kickoff, Keyshawn Nixon fumbled it. I remember when he caught the ball, I was like, he's going to fumble it. I just knew that that's how the game was going to start. The Packers had no business being in Philly. Philly was the much better team all around. Yeah, it sucks to see the Packers season end like this. I would say overall the season has been a disappointment. I understand the team is still young, but I think there was a lot of regression on offense. Jordan Love did not, I don't think, live up to expectations, and I understand there was a lot of injuries this year. Love got hurt a few times, but this team just never got going this year. You know, there was a few games where they looked good, but it was always against the bad teams. This team they didn't look like they did last year, where you were like, oh man, this team could make some noise in the playoffs. You know what the Packers' talent is, but they just didn't fucking show it this year. And it's extremely frustrating because this team, you know they have the capability of competing with the best, and yet they just come out week after week and look sloppy. And it's on the coaching staff, and I'll get more into that. But yeah, Jordan Love was not good. He finished the day with 212 yards, no touchdowns and 3 interceptions, 41.5 passer rating, just absolutely terrible. Jordan Love was horrible in this game. Christian Watson, obviously we didn't have him, and then Romeo Doubs went down. God, I hope he's all right because he's had a lot of injuries this year, and I really hope and pray that he's fine because he looked like he hit the ground really hard. And then Jayden Reed came out of the game, and it's just like all of our receivers just kept getting hurt in a game that I never thought we were going to tie it, even when the Packers scored that touchdown. To only be down by 6 points, I never thought this game was going to be close. I knew the Eagles would answer back. So, yeah, the defense, hats off to the defense. I think that's one of the key takeaways from this game and from this season is that Jeff Hafley has done a tremendous job. Hats off to him. He did great this year in turning this defense around. The defense kept the Packers in this game for the majority of it, and I think towards the end they got tired, and you know that's going to happen when your offense can't stay on the field. You keep getting 3 and outs, you keep turning over the ball. You know, your defense, you don't give your defense the proper time to rest, and that's going to happen. So this game was not on the defense. The defense, I think, played their asses off, and very, very impressed with that, and I'm looking forward to see how that builds going into next year, getting some more pieces maybe, and see what happens there. And then, obviously, Josh Jacobs ran his ass off. Josh Jacobs looked like one of the only people on the offense who wanted to play and showed up. Jayden Reed had a pretty good game until he got hurt, and then Dontavian Wicks had some good grabs. But, yeah, the offense overall was just not good and not even close to good enough to win. So, in Brandon McManus, I'll mention that too. Like, Brandon McManus has been pretty damn good this year. I think that's only his second miss, right? The entire year that he's been with the Packers since that Houston game. This game was not on Brandon McManus. Should he have made that field goal? Absolutely, and like he needs to do better. But let's be honest, that game was not going to making that field goal was not going to change the overall, complexion and the way this game was going. The Packers, they needed points. They didn't get any more points from that field goal, and yeah, that you can't sit and say like, oh, this loss is on Brandon McManus. Yes, should have made the field goal, but I don't think it would have changed anything if we had kicked that. So overall, very, very disappointed. This is about what I expected. I knew the Packers were going to lose this game. I was hoping that they would come out and, go down swinging and look good. Their offense would look competent, and, Philly would win just because Philly's the better team. And maybe it would come down to a last-minute field goal. And I knew the Packers had the ability to go in there and play with Philly and potentially get the upset. I just have been seeing the trend these last few weeks, and it's just one of those things. You watch football long enough. I knew from that opening kickoff, I was like, he's going to fumble it. And he did. And I was like, yep, that's going to set the tone. And I knew pretty much from that fumbled, I'm like, the Packers just lost. Like, this is just, it sounds crazy because, the game wasn't as much of a blowout as it could have been, but any Packers fan that's watched the season just kind of knows the trend this team has, that like when they come out hot and they punch the other team in the mouth from the opening drive, you're like, okay, very, very good chance they win this game, because when they come out hot, their offense, looks good through the first quarter, and then in the second quarter, even if they slow down a little bit, they don't have to play catch up. And that opening drive, that fumble, just set the tone again. And to be honest with you, I think I was more pissed off that they lost to the Bears than I was them losing to the Eagles, mainly because this is what I expected. It sucks to see a lot of this talent being wasted by a head coach who, it's going to sound weird because I'm not trying to like armchair quarterback, and obviously I'm not an NFL coach. I'm never be an NFL coach, nowhere near good enough, but I don't think Matt LaFleur is good enough either. I think offensive coordinating is his specialty, and I think that's where his ceiling is. I do not think he is capable of being a head coach in the NFL. I know his record, through the regular season since he took over has been good. We went to the playoffs, many times. I think there's just one year we didn't make the playoffs. Was that last year with Rodgers? I'd have to look at that, but great record, but I don't think he can coach in big games, and I don't think he knows how to discipline his team and get his team ready, because and people can yell at me all I want and say, oh, LaFleur is like, a great head coach. It's like, is he just a great offensive mind that, knows how to call plays most of the time? Even yesterday, there were some play calls where it was just like head scratching. His clock management has been terrible sometimes, and I'm sick of his pissy-ass attitude getting in front of the camera and saying, oh, yeah, we got to be better. We got to stop shooting ourselves in the foot. It's like, dude, that starts with you. The coach can't control everything. Of course, players are going to make mistakes. We're human beings. Like, you can't expect every single thing to fall on the coach, right? Like, few interceptions that Jordan Love threw, that fumble from Keyshawn Nixon, that's not on LaFleur. But the sloppy starts week after week after week. The team looks unmotivated. They look undisciplined. They're still committing stupid-ass penalties. Was it 3 holding calls on the same drive? Or it was 2 in one drive and then 1 on the next? It's just stupid-ass shit that, like, week 1 you can get away with. Like, oh, it's week 1, they're still getting used to playing. Or it's the same BS excuse of, oh, this is a young team. It's like, dude, a lot of this team has played 2 full seasons now. We shouldn't be committing this many penalties and look this sloppy. Like, that's on LaFleur, and I do not think he is capable of being a head coach in the NFL. And I will gladly eat my words if he goes on to prove me wrong, and I hope he does prove me wrong, because I want the Packers to succeed. I just think that is we've seen Matt LaFleur's limit. Like, we've seen his ceiling. I don't really have words. I know people might argue and say, oh, like, look at his record and he's a great offensive mind. He's made the playoffs so many times. It's like, okay, but when does it stop though? Like, where does it end, and when does the next level come into play, right? Because I'm thinking of like Mike Tomlin, great head coach, never had a losing season with the Steelers. What has he been there, 18 years? Mike Tomlin's a great head coach. The last few games I've seen Mike Tomlin, he does not look as into it as he used to be. He has like a blank stare, and I think sometimes it's just time for a change of scenery. And I think Mike Tomlin, if you're a Steelers fan, you're stuck in this like purgatory of like, would you rather be like bad and start a rebuild and get some good draft picks? Because the Steelers are in that, like, you make the playoffs every single year, you're a wild card, and then you get blown out in the first round. And it seems like the Packers are kind of in that same thing. I know they won last year in Dallas, and that was like the one game where Matt LaFleur looked like he came to play. But other than that, like, and they played relatively good against the 49ers. They should have won that game, and I don't put that much of the blame on LaFleur that 49ers lost last year as I put on just the overall, not punching it in the red zone, and then the turnovers and that missed field goal from what's his name? No, I'm even forgetting his name now. Narvison. No, not Narvison. Whatever the hell our kicker was last name. Oh my god, I'm blanking on his name now. Probably because I've erased it from memory because he sucks. Anyways, Carlson. There it is. I don't put that loss on LaFleur, but his playoff record is just like, this team just never shows up, and they don't look like they want to win. And frankly, they don't deserve to win when they play like that. So, yeah, that is it is what it is. We know the Packers are a very well-run organization, and they don't really make big changes like this, and I doubt he's going to get fired. And, they want to give him another year, sure, but I think we've seen his ceiling. And unless he takes a hard look in the mirror and decides that, like, hey, maybe I need to be a little bit harder on these players, and I don't know if he just wants to be the players' friends and just doesn't discipline them, but I've said this before. Notice how the Lions, every single week this year, they've, never come out flat. They lost to Tampa Bay, and then they've lost to the Bills, and the Bills game was a shootout, and the Bills were just the better team. Watch the Lions when they come out in the divisional round against Washington. They'd have a week off. They had that bye week. They're going to come out swinging, and they're probably going to get a touchdown on their opening drive, and you're going to be able to see the fire in their players, the fire in their eyes, and how they play with intensity. The Packers didn't play with that yesterday, and people can say whatever they want about the team. It's guys, it's on the coaching staff to get this team ready and to amp them up, and Dan Campbell obviously does a hell of a job doing that. I don't think Dan Campbell is the offensive mind that LaFleur is, obviously not, but that's where I think you need to draw the line between offensive coordinator and head coach. I don't think Dan Campbell would be an excellent offensive coordinator. I could be wrong. Dan Campbell is handcrafted to be a head coach, with his intensity, his discipline, and how aggressive he is. I love it. I think he's aggressive too much sometimes, but I'm kind of rambling. But Dan Campbell there's a reason why he's a really good head coach, is because you can just listen to a speech by him and you're fired up. LaFleur just gives the same old BS responses every single time, oh, we're a young team, we gotta stop shooting ourselves in the foot. Well then, dude, get on your team and fix this, because it is absolutely ridiculous that this team with the talent has just looked this bad. It almost looks like the team has given up sometimes. So yeah, take that with what you will. I don't know what else to say. He's not an NFL caliber head coach, so maybe you never demote somebody really to offensive coordinator. I feel like that would just be too awkward, and it's going to be salty and stuff, but I think it's time to move on and maybe hire an offensive. Nothing wrong with our offensive coordinator, but I just think that LaFleur, Stenovich, I was blanking on his name. I think LaFleur's ceiling is a wild card or divisional round exit. I just don't think, and I know he's made it to the NFC Championship game. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that I don't think he has the capability of getting his team ready for the big game. So that's all I got to say on that. I know there's a lot of people that were on the fire Matt LaFleur train a year ago, or a year and a half ago. I was never really fully on it. I think he did a great job this year with Malik Willis and getting him ready for those games. But again, offensive, hey, this is what we're going to do. This is the game plan. We're going to run the ball a lot. We're going to do a few plays where you're going to throw, and we're going to play very, very conservative football and win this game. And it was against a team, the Colts, that were not very good this year. So again, very, very great job with Malik Willis, but he doesn't have the discipline, and he doesn't have the ability to coach at the highest level. So we'll see what the Packers do. I doubt they fire him, but it is what it is. I'm kind of tired of seeing just the Packers just shit the bed in the playoffs. And I know last year they won in Dallas, and it was oh my God, this is awesome. And last year after that Dallas game, it was holy crap, are we going to go to the Super Bowl? This year, going into the playoffs, we had no momentum. We had no fire. And yeah, overall, the Eagles deserve to win. I guess I haven't really spoken too much on the game itself, but just, sloppy turnovers, horrible play other than maybe Josh Jacobs and a few of the receivers. But defense came to play, and I love to see that, and I'm very happy with what Jeff Hafley has done. But overall, the offense, absolutely terrible. Just shitty-ass performance, and it's unacceptable. So we'll see what happens in the offseason. We'll talk about what happens in the draft, what the Packers need to do. Maybe they do need to get a number one receiver. They're probably going to need to address corner if they let Jair go, and then maybe get some defensive line help to help with the pass rush, because that was also not very good last night. So yeah, we'll see what happens in the offseason. But some key takeaways from this season, obviously, Xavier McKinney, Josh Jacobs, and Brandon McManus, all very positive. I want them to keep Brandon McManus. I don't really care that he missed that field goal yesterday. It wasn't going to change the overall outcome of the game. Now, if he had missed a game winner, that would be different, but yeah, McManus, McKinney, Josh Jacobs, all great signings and pickups by Goody. And we'll see what happens going forward. Excited for next year, but also like not really excited because I'm just like, is this going to be the trend every year where just the team doesn't show up? And we'll see.